Today we're unpacking a fiery clash that's got everyone talking. Fox News veteran national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin firing back after being called the worst by none other than Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, her former Fox News colleague. This isn't just a personal spat, it's a window into the tensions between the media, the Trump administration, and the truth about America's military actions in Iran. Buckle up because the story's got layers. It all went down on June 26, 2025 at a Pentagon press conference. Hegseth, a former Fox News host turned Trump's defense chief, was briefing reporters alongside Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane about U.S. airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. The White House has been trumpeting these strikes as a smashing success, with President Trump claiming they obliterated Iran's nuclear program. But leaked intelligence reports covered by outlets like CNN and the New York Times suggest the strikes may have only set Iran back a few months, not the years the administration's claiming. Enter Jennifer Griffin, Fox's sharp-eyed Pentagon reporter who's built a reputation for no-nonsense reporting over decades. Griffin asked a pointed question: do you have certainty that all the highly enriched uranium was inside the Fordow mountain? She cited satellite imagery showing more than a dozen trucks leaving the site days before the strikes, hinting Iran might have moved critical nuclear materials. It was a fair, tough question, one you'd expect from a journalist with her credentials. But Hegseth didn't answer. Instead, he went nuclear on Griffin herself, saying, "Jennifer, you've been about the worst. The one who misrepresents the most intentionally what the president says." Ouch. The room froze. Griffin, cool as ever, shot back, "I take issue with that," and doubled down, noting she was the first to accurately report details of the B-2 bomber mission. This wasn't just a heated moment, it was a public dressing down of a respected journalist by a cabinet member, and it sparked a firestorm. Social media's buzzing, some MAGA folks are cheering Hegseth for owning Griffin, while others, including journalists across the spectrum, are slamming his unprofessional outburst. Brit Hume, Fox's chief political analyst, jumped to Griffin's defense on air, calling Hegseth's attack unfair and praising her unmatched professionalism. Even MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell and Jen Psaki piled on, hailing Griffin as a tough reporter who didn't deserve the swipe. Why does this matter to you, our American listeners? Because this clash isn't just about two former colleagues bickering. It's about the truth behind a major military operation and whether the government's leveling with us. Griffin's question wasn't about scoring points, it was about holding power to account. Hegseth's response, sidestepping the issue to attack her personally, raises red flags. Is the administration dodging scrutiny because the strikes didn't deliver the knockout blow they promised? And what does it mean when a defense secretary targets a journalist for doing her job? Jennifer Griffin isn't just any reporter. She's Fox News chief national security correspondent with over 25 years at the network. She's covered wars, terrorist attacks, and Pentagon briefings with a tenacity that's earned her respect across the aisle. Back in 2020, she confirmed parts of the Atlantic story about Trump allegedly calling fallen soldiers suckers and losers. A move that didn't win her fans among some Trump loyalists but cemented her as a journalist who follows facts, not agendas. Earlier this year, she reported on Hegseth sharing classified info via Signal with Trump's cabinet, raising eyebrows about his judgment. Her question at the press conference wasn't a gotcha, it was classic Griffin, digging for clarity on a murky operation. The stakes here are huge. The Trump administration's claiming these airstrikes, dubbed Operation Midnight Hunter, crippled Iran's nuclear program for years. But leaks reported by CNN, the New York Times, and even Griffin herself suggest the damage might be minimal, months, not years. This gap between the White House's narrative and the intel has put the media under fire. Trump's raged on Truth Social about fake news undermining the mission, while White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called for leakers to be jailed. Hegseth's outburst at Griffin feels like part of this broader push to discredit reporters asking hard questions. What's wild is the Fox News angle. Hegseth, a former Fox and Friends host, attacking his old colleague at a network that's often aligned with Trump's base is a plot twist. Some MAGA supporters on X are cheering Hegseth, calling Griffin a Trump hater who cherry-picks intel to make the strikes look bad. Others, like Fox's Brit Hume, are rallying behind her, praising her unmatched expertise. This split mirrors a tension within conservative media, loyalty to Trump versus journalistic integrity. Griffin's not backing down. She went on Fox and Friends to defend her reporting, noting she was first to detail the B-2 bomber's role accurately. For American listeners, this isn't just Pentagon drama. It's about whether we're getting the full story on a military action that could shape U.S.-Iran relations for years. When a defense secretary targets a reporter instead of answering her question, it's a red flag. Is the administration hiding something about the strike's impact? And what happens when the press, even at Fox, gets vilified for doing its job? We'll explore Hegseth's motives and the Iran operations fallout next. Pete Hegseth isn't your typical defense secretary. A former Fox and Friends host and Army veteran, he's been a vocal Trump loyalist since his TV days. When Trump tapped him for the Pentagon in 2025, it raised eyebrows. Hegseth had no senior government experience, and his nomination barely squeaked through the Senate after a contentious confirmation process. Critics pointed to past controversies like allegations of misconduct from his time leading a veterans group, which Hegseth denied. Supporters, especially Trump's base, loved his outsider status and his combative style, honed on Fox's airwaves. At the Pentagon, he's leaned into that persona, framing himself as a warrior against woke military policies and media bias. So why target Griffin? Hegseth's "the worst jab wasn't random." Griffin's reporting has been a thorn in his side, notably her scoop about him sharing classified info on Signal with Trump's cabinet. That story, aired in early 2025, fueled Democratic calls to block his nomination. By calling her out, Hegseth wasn't just deflecting her question about Iran's uranium, he was signaling to Trump's base that he's fighting back against a perceived enemy within Fox News, a network some MAGA supporters feel has softened on Trump. On X, pro-Trump accounts like at Patriot Voice USA praised Hegseth for calling out Griffin's bias, while others, like at GOP War Room, echoed his claim that she misrepresents Trump's wins. This clash also reflects the administration's broader playbook: control the narrative at all costs. The Iran airstrikes, launched June 20, 2025, were sold as a historic victory, with Trump claiming on Truth Social they ended Iran's nuclear threat for good. But leaks reported by Reuters, The Washington Post, and Griffin suggest Iran's Fordow facility wasn't fully neutralized. Those trucks Griffin mentioned? Analysts on CNN and MSNBC say they likely moved enriched uranium, meaning Iran could restart its program sooner than claimed. Hegseth's attack on Griffin dodges these inconvenient truths, redirecting focus to her as the problem, not the operation's mixed results. For American listeners, this is a gut check. Hegseth's outburst isn't just about one reporter. It's about a government allergic to scrutiny. When a defense secretary prioritizes loyalty over transparency, what does that mean for trust in our leaders, especially on issues of war and peace? And with Fox News caught in the crossfire, are we seeing a fracture in conservative media's unity? Next, we'll dive into the Iran strikes' global fallout and what's at stake for America's security. The airstrikes, launched June 20, 2025, targeted Iran's Fordow and Natanz nuclear sites. The Trump administration's calling it a game changer, with VP J.D. Vance claiming on Newsmax that Iran's nuclear ambitions are done for a generation. But the leaks Griffin referenced, backed by reports from Bloomberg and The Guardian, paint a messier picture. Satellite imagery shows activity at Fordow before the strikes, and experts like David Albright from the Institute for Science and International Security estimate Iran could rebuild its centrifuge cascades in 6 to 9 months. This gap between the White House's victory lap and the intel has fueled skepticism, especially as Iran's supreme leader vowed retaliation on state TV, raising fears of cyber attacks or proxy attacks on U.S. bases. Enter the Griffin-Hegseth clash. When Griffin asked about those trucks leaving Fordow, she was probing a critical weak spot. Did the U.S. miss its target? Hegseth's personal attack, calling her the worst, sidestepped the question, but it's amplified public debate. On X, reactions are polarized. MAGA accounts like at America First 1776 blast Griffin as anti-Trump, accusing her of undermining a huge win. Meanwhile, moderates and liberals, including voices like at The Bulwark and at Midas Touch, praise her for exposing potential spin. A CNN poll from June 27, 2025 shows 58% of Americans want more transparency on the strike's impact, with 41% saying they trust journalists like Griffin over Pentagon briefings. This isn't just about Iran, it's about trust. Americans are weary after years of polarized media and government overpromises. Hegseth's outburst, caught on C-SPAN and replayed across networks, feeds a narrative that the administration's more interested in loyalty than truth. Fox News, caught in the middle, is feeling the heat. While hosts like Sean Hannity have stayed mum, others, like Neil Cavuto, have defended Griffin's dogged reporting. This internal rift at Fox mirrors a broader question: can any outlet stay neutral when the stakes are this high? For our listeners, this hits home. If the Iran strikes didn't deliver as promised, what's the plan to keep Iran in check? And when a defense secretary attacks a reporter for asking tough questions, does it erode faith in our leaders? The Pentagon's credibility is on the line, and so is the media's role as a watchdog. Next, we'll wrap up with what's next for Griffin, Hegseth, and America's place in a volatile world. Jennifer Griffin's not going anywhere. After Hegseth's the worst jab on June 26, 2025, she's doubled down, appearing on Fox's special report to defend her reporting on the Iran strikes. Her question about trucks leaving for Dow, rooted in leaked intel, has spurred new investigations, with Reuters and Al Jazeera citing sources claiming Iran did move enriched uranium. Griffin's reputation as a straight shooter is intact. Even CNN's Jake Tapper called her one of the best in the business. But she's navigating a tightrope at Fox, where some viewers see her as disloyal to Trump. Expect her to keep pressing the Pentagon, likely fueling more scoops on Iran's nuclear moves. Pete Hegseth, meanwhile, is walking a riskier path. His attack on Griffin won cheers from Trump's base. X posts from accounts like at MAGA Mission 2024 hailed him as taking on the fake news. But it's alienated moderates and drawn fire from journalists, with the Washington Post's editorial board calling it a dangerous precedent. Hegseth is already under scrutiny for his thin resume and past controversies, and this outburst hasn't helped. If the Iran strike's shortcomings become undeniable, say, if Iran tests a warhead sooner than expected, he could face heat for dodging questions. Trump's loyal to loyalists, but Hegseth's job might hinge on delivering results, not just sound bites. The bigger story is trust. The Iran operation, hyped as a triumph, is looking like a partial win at best. A Gallup poll from June 28, 2025, shows only 49% of Americans believe the Pentagon's fully honest about the strikes, down from 62% post-operation. Hegseth's clash with Griffin, replayed on every major network, feeds the skepticism. When leaders attack reporters instead of answering questions, it erodes faith in government and in media, too. Fox News is caught in a bind. Alienate its base by backing Griffin, or risk its credibility by siding with Hegseth? This tension could reshape how conservative outlets cover Trump's second term. For American listeners, this is a wake-up call. The U.S. faces a volatile Iran, a skeptical public, and a media under fire. Griffin's stand reminds us why a free press matters. Someone's got to ask the tough questions. Hegseth's reaction shows the cost of prioritizing loyalty over truth. As we head into 2025, with Iran vowing retaliation and global tensions rising, America needs leaders who level with us and reporters who hold them accountable. That's the real pulse of the story.